News begins with breaking news.
Breaking now at 11, sex, affairs, money, and murder. Explosive new evidence and information just released in the brutal killing of Dr. Teresa Sievers, one of the biggest stories we have ever covered.
Earlier today, live on Wink News, which you see here, and now late into the night, we've had a team of reporters digging through stacks and stacks of documents, which reveal new clues none of us expected. The first thing that caught our attention, investigators believe Sievers' husband, Mark, was involved in the planning and execution of his wife's murder. He is not under arrest. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Hall.
I'm Chris Safadi. Tonight, no station in Southwest Florida will go into greater detail and take you deeper into this case than Wink News. All that new information released is part of the case against one of Sievers' accused killers, Wayne Wright, who is now in the Lee County Jail, charged with second-degree murder. The other big headlines in the case tonight, we're learning about a history of sexual affairs by both of the Sievers spouses, as well as rumors of them getting divorced. We're also learning Teresa Sievers had life insurance policies on her worth more than $4 million. And finally, we're uncovering exactly how this heinous and violent crime was carried out step by step. So we're going to get to all of that tonight. But first, the most stunning development of all, investigators believe Mark Sievers was involved in the death of his wife. It's important to point out this is their theory of what happened. He has not been arrested or charged with any crime. Now on the Night Beat, Wink News investigative reporter Sam Smink starts our breaking team coverage.
In a probable cause affidavit, detectives with the Lee County Sheriff's Office clearly state they believe Mark Sievers intended to pay his best friend, Wayne Wright, an undisclosed amount of money to kill his wife. It was on June 29th around 7 p.m. that Lee County detectives first interviewed Mark Sievers. Hours earlier, they had found his wife, Dr. Teresa Sievers, bludgeoned to death by a hammer in the family's Bonita Springs home. At the time, Sievers said he didn't know who would harm his wife. After searching through thousands of pages of evidence, we now know today detectives believe Mark Sievers, quote, was involved in the planning and subsequent execution of his wife's murder, helping to stage a burglary. The family had an alarm system, but an interview with Mark's mother shows she never set the alarm the morning of Teresa's death, at Mark's request. The family was out of town. Mark told his mom Teresa was coming home early, and there was no need. Detectives believe her killers knew the alarm would not be a problem. It was shortly after that discovery that Mark stopped working with detectives. He refused to give detectives a list of what they needed from him. That included palm prints and other DNA from Mark, his mom, and his two daughters, information about cell phones Teresa used, the codes for the home alarm, and who knew them, as well as the code to the garage door. Records also showed Sievers and his childhood best friend Wayne Wright, a suspect in the murder, also had daily communication until the evening of June 25th, 4 days before the murder. Communication resumed between the two on June 30th, when Wright said, quote, he had heard about the murder and him and his wife were en route to Florida. The attorney for Mark Sievers says they have not seen the documents, so cannot comment to that. His attorney says Mark is still grieving for his wife. Mark Sievers has not been arrested and is not in custody tonight, according to his lawyer. On the Night Beat, Sam Smink, Wink News Now.
Sam, thank you. Continuing our breaking team coverage, what was going on with this couple, Teresa and Mark Sievers, who by all accounts in pictures appear to be happy? Now on the Night Beat, Wink News Call for Action reporter Lindsay Sablon continues our breaking team coverage.
Last month would have been the Sievers' 12th wedding anniversary, but by then Teresa was dead, and detectives believe the Sievers' marriage was going downhill.
In his first interview with detectives, Mark Sievers, Teresa's husband, told detectives they had a good marriage. And just days after Teresa was found murdered, her friend told us this.
She's got a beautiful family, and I really grieve for them that they're going to miss their mom, and Mark's going to miss his wife.
But in this probable cause affidavit, detectives painted a picture of a marriage falling apart. Investigators said Teresa was looking to divorce Mark, and both were involved in numerous affairs, both together and outside of their marriage. During one interview, Mark told detectives they had experimented with other partners and swinging, but didn't think any of those partners would hurt her. 5 neighbors were quoted saying they had heard Mark and Teresa argue. As detectives paint this picture of a marriage dissolving, they also discovered Teresa had 5 different life insurance policies, totaling $4,433,342. And Mark Sievers told detectives there were 4 safes in the home, one with $40,000 cash. All that money and their own business. But yet Mark Sievers told detectives they commonly live month to month and don't have that much financial stability. Just today, Wink News uncovered the IRS wants to seize all the couple's assets, and they've put a lien on the couple's property for $32,000 in unpaid taxes from 2013. I'm Call for Action reporter Lindsay Sablon. Wink News now.
Lindsay, thanks. Now we're going to tell you about the most graphic evidence we received today. We're talking about the injuries Dr. Sievers sustained. According to a newly released probable cause affidavit, she had 17 lacerations to her scalp, as well as multiple skull fractures. And a hammer used to bludgeon her to death was found with chunks of hair and blood on it. Without question, the killing was brutal and savage, and tonight, for the very first time, we're seeing exactly how detectives think it was carried out step by step.
Now on the Night Beat, investigative reporter Dave Culbreth is live in the Wink News Satellite Center with the troubling new information on that part of the story.
Here's some more things we're learning tonight. We're learning that Teresa Sievers had a multi-million-dollar life insurance policy, that the accused murder suspect, Wayne Wright, and her husband, even though they were best friends, they had been texting every day for the last 4 years, sometimes using burner phones to keep things secret. And the technology played a factor in this case in the form of GPS. Curtis Wainwright and Jimmy Rogers both deny being in Florida when Teresa Sievers was murdered in cold blood. What they didn't know, however, is that this rental car that they had rented had GPS on it and tracked their every step from Missouri to Florida and back. On Saturday, June 27th, Wright left his house in Hillsboro, Missouri around 7 in the morning to pick up Rogers, half an hour away in Cadet, Missouri. Less than 24 hours later, they arrived at Teresa Sievers' home in Bonita Springs. She wasn't home. Later that morning, GPS and this surveillance picture shows the duo at the Walmart on 6 Mile Cypress. Court documents show they used cash, a $100 bill, to buy a lockpick, trash bags, wipes, black shoes, towels, and a backpack. At the same time, the victim, Teresa Sievers, was coming back from a family vacation in Connecticut. She texted her husband, Mark, around 11 that night to tell him she made it home. Her husband, who court documents say, quote, was involved in the planning and subsequent execution of her murder, end quote. The court documents describe a grisly crime scene, which was staged to look like a burglary. Later in the investigation, Roger's girlfriend told detectives about a disturbing conversation she had with Jimmy. She guessed Sievers was shot with a gun and says Rogers laughed at that and said, no, he, quote, killed her with a hammer. Why? Well, Dr. Sievers had life insurance policies totaling over $4.4 million. Rogers also told his girlfriend Mark Sievers hired Wayne Wright to drive to Florida and kill Teresa for insurance money. Detectives say Wayne Wright offered Rogers $10,000 for helping him while down there. When investigators searched Rogers' home, they found a cooler with a hammer in it. Sievers was bludgeoned to death with a hammer. Sievers was murdered sometime after 11 o'clock that Sunday night, and the GPS on the rental car indicated that Rogers and Wright headed right back to Missouri shortly thereafter. Also, later that week, Wayne Wright came back to Southwest Florida to attend Teresa's funeral. Live on the Night Beat, Dave Culbreth, Wink News Now.
All right, Dave, thank you for that. And new tonight, we reached out to the attorneys for the 2 accused killers, Wayne Wright and Jimmy Rogers, to get their take on all of this new information. They have not gotten back to us yet. But yesterday in court, Wright's attorney said she had not received any evidence from the state. And just minutes ago, we told you about the biggest headline tonight. Investigators believe Mark Sievers was involved in the planning and execution of his wife's murder.
So the question a lot of you are asking, why hasn't he been arrested? Right after the break, why one local defense attorney feels that could soon change. Our breaking team coverage is far from over tonight.
You're watching Wink News at 11, Southwest Florida's most watched 11 o'clock news.
Back to that breaking story we just promised you. This is Mark Sievers, and investigators believe he intended to pay his best friend to kill his own wife, Teresa. So the big question tonight, why hasn't Mark Sievers been arrested?
Tonight Beat's Corey Lazar is here with some important legal analysis into that question, all new at 11.
That's right, Chris and Amanda. We got a local defense attorney to sit down with us as we read through hundreds of pages of documents earlier today. That attorney believes it could be strategy, waiting to arrest Mark Sievers, waiting to see how much evidence investigators can gather against him.
And I think, quite honestly, that they're watching him now to see what his reaction is to all of this evidence and his house of cards falling apart.
Local defense attorney Scott Morey, who's not involved in this case, expects authorities to arrest Mark Sievers very shortly. In numerous search warrant and cell phone tracing affidavits, investigators believe Mark Sievers hired Curtis Wayne Wright to murder his wife.
The evidence is starting to come out. These documents are showing affidavits from detectives, which is evidence.
But right now, Sievers is a free man. Morey tells Wink News the benefit for authorities to wait and arrest Sievers is to see if he makes a mistake or even flee after seeing all of this evidence.
If he does attempt to flee, they've got what we call a consciousness of guilt argument. They can argue to a jury that he was concerned, knowing that he was going to be arrested, knowing that his case was unfolding, and he wanted to get out of the country.
And if Mark Sievers was Morey's client right now?
I get my client in the office immediately, be sure that he's going to remain silent if in fact he is arrested. I tell him not to do anything stupid.
Now, Wink News reached out to Mark Sievers' attorney, and they tell us they have no comment on all of this evidence because they have not had the chance to read through it all just yet. Sievers' attorneys also say he is at home with his daughter, still grieving, and has not been contacted by the Lee County Sheriff's Office. Amanda?
All right, Corey, thank you. As for the second suspect, Jimmy Rogers, he's now in federal prison in Illinois, serving a 6-month sentence for violating his probation when he allegedly came to Florida in June. Keep in mind, just because he has a warrant for his arrest here in Southwest Florida for first-degree murder, that may not be what he's eventually charged with. Once he's brought to Lee County, the state attorney's office could amend that charge to second-degree murder. We're far from being done with this stunning new evidence and information just released today. You can head to our website, winknews.com, for the very latest on the Teresa Sievers murder case.
Meanwhile, we want to bring Wink News Chief Meteorologist Jim Farrell in tonight on a very warm night for December 1st.
Yeah, coming off the hottest day in the country, 86 Fort Myers, 87 degrees Naples. That's 2 in a row. We've been the national hot spot. Won't be the hot spot in a couple of days. Clouds will be on the move, and we've got some high clouds arriving now in Tampa Bay. We'll see those on top of us tonight. Even though there will be some high clouds, there will not be any rain overnight tonight. Temperatures will stay in the 70s with partly cloudy sky, and you'll wake up to temperatures of 69 degrees in town with partly cloudy weather. Okay, one more extra warm day. We'll be on the eastern side of the approaching cold front. That's the warm sector, so isolated inland rain, otherwise dry and warm with high temperatures in the mid-80s again tomorrow afternoon. Right now it's low to mid-70s in a few places. Cape Coral 74 degrees. And as we survey the country, I just want to show you the high temperatures around the U.S. We were the warmest in the country at 86. No competition out of South Texas or the desert Southwest this time around. And it's not freezing, but just above freezing, 38 degrees, Sault Ste. Marie. There you see Boston at 43 degrees. There's the core of the cold air, Intermountain region with the sub-freezing temperatures. 21 degrees at Yellowstone, and Missoula 15 degrees right now. Western half of the country a little colder, a lot colder than the eastern half of the country. All right, Future Track will show you the progression here. Clouds mainly inland with a few showers tomorrow. That's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And as we take it out another 24 hours or so, Thursday at 5, there's some rain in Southwest Florida with plenty of clouds. Friday, cloudy with rain again. So Thursday, Friday, 2 days upcoming, cloudy with some wet weather, ½ inch to 1 inch possible in a few spots. So we're getting ready for that. And as that cloudy, wet weather arrives on Thursday and Friday, it will not be quite as hot in the afternoon. But then the rain gets out of the way for the weekend. Breezy and warmer by Saturday and Sunday.
All right, Jim, thank you. All new tonight, in the wake of that deadly ZombieCon shooting back in October, the streets of downtown Fort Myers could soon get safer. Tonight, city leaders move forward with 2 big security projects.
The Night Beat's Christy Gross is live downtown with the details. Christy.
Amanda, I'm outside of Cabo's restaurant, whose security video has been used by police after the ZombieCon shooting. And tonight, city leaders voted to help install surveillance cameras downtown. This video footage and more from nearby businesses has been critical to investigators still searching for the ZombieCon shooter. Oh my God! Now, more than 6 weeks after the shooting, police and city leaders are focused on security, but it won't come cheap. The city needs to come up with $300,000 to get surveillance cameras installed downtown and other troubled areas in the city. People we met tonight say it's money well spent.
You can't compare $300,000 to one person's life anyway, so it's really a small price to pay.
And they should have done it, a year ago before this, but unfortunately it took ZombieCon to make people aware of the situation, so it's good now.
The Community Redevelopment Agency was asked to pitch in $100,000. They slashed parts of their budget and emptied out others, like money dedicated to bringing tech businesses downtown.
If we're going to recruit new businesses, we have to ensure it's a safe location for them to come to.
Also new tonight, the board unanimously approved taking an additional $14,000 from their reserve fund for extra security at large events. The city hopes to have the first phase of cameras installed in just a few weeks before their New Year's Eve event, which is expected to bring thousands of people downtown. Live on the Night Beat, Christy Gross, Wink News Now.
Christy, thank you. Just days ago, gunshots rang out at a high school football stadium in Miami.
It sent football players sprinting off the field in fear. This Friday, Naples High School will play in that same stadium. And as you can imagine, concerns are growing for the safety of the players on the field. The Night Beat's Christina Lusby has more on what the school district plans to do to make sure everyone stays safe.
A game turned to chaos after shots rang out near a Miami-Dade football field, a place where Naples High School football players and fans will head in just a few days.
The shooting in question started out people thinking it was in the stands. It wasn't even on property.
With the shooting happening just 2 weeks ago, there's a bigger game plan for this weekend than just the plays on the field.
And they went over their plan to keep the stadium safe.
The Collier County School District in Miami-Dade agreed to bring in 26 deputies. 6 are youth relation deputies from here in Collier County. The other 20 are from Miami-Dade.
It's going to be one of the most well-protected places in Miami-Dade County.
Security is always a part of high school events requiring travel.
Much like when we sent the band from Gulf Coast to New York this last week, security is handled at the district level, and it's something that we constantly keep an eye on.
This is helping ease the minds of players, parents, and 3 to 4 busloads of fans.
So we came away from that call feeling confident that we're doing what we can to keep our fans and our players safe. There's still going to be a great game, and it's going to be a heck of a game.
On the Night Beat, Christina Lusby, Wink News Now.
To pay for the added security, the money will come from the ticket sale profits. The district says there should be more than enough to cover the cost and make a profit.
Our breaking coverage still going strong tonight into that new information in the Teresa Sievers murder case. Right after this break, we'll dig deeper into the Sievers family history and their history of financial problems. That story is right after this break. You're watching Wink News. Right now, Wink News continuing with more breaking team coverage of the Teresa Sievers murder case. Tonight, we're digging deeper into the life that she shared with her husband, Mark, including some of their struggles.
Now on the Night Beat, let's bring in Wink News investigative reporter Dave Colbreth, who's been looking into the Sievers family background for months.
Yes, Amanda, one more time, Teresa's husband, Mark Sievers, has not been arrested nor charged with any crime in this case. So who are these people? Well, for months, Wink News has been digging through the history of all of those involved in the case. 47-year-old Mark Douglas Sievers was born and raised in rural Missouri, in Hillsboro, a town of 2,800 people, 50 miles southwest of St. Louis. In elementary school, he met Wayne Wright, charged in connection with the death of Dr. Teresa Sievers. Wright and Mark Sievers were friends growing up and graduated together at Hillsboro High School. Afterwards, Sievers went to college in Springfield and in 1995 became a licensed practical nurse. He and Wayne moved in together and rented this house up the road in Fenton, Missouri, until they were evicted in 1999. It was then that Mark Sievers moved to Florida, to the St. Pete area, where he continued to work as an LPN. Meanwhile, Teresa Ann Tottenham was born and raised about 30 miles west of New Haven, Connecticut, with 2 brothers and 3 sisters, 2 of whom also became doctors. Teresa was later valedictorian at Ansonia High School, then went to college at Fairfield University and graduated with a master's in biology in 1990. From there, she went to Ross University School of Medicine in the West Indies, where she graduated with honors and received a medical degree in 1996. She served her residency in Jacksonville through the University of Florida. She officially became a doctor in 1998, and her first job was in Charleston, South Carolina. It was there that she met Kenny Cousins. They were married in January of 2000, and she became Teresa Cousins. He was from the St. Pete area, so Teresa moved there with him. The marriage lasted 3 years until March of 2003. Later, Teresa met Mark's sister Stacy, and she introduced her to Mark. Mark and Teresa were married 7 months after her divorce from Kenny Cousins. The next year, they had their first of 2 children. In 2005, Mark and Teresa moved to Bonita Springs and lived in this house next door to the one they had built. They also opened up a holistic medical practice together, and Mark was her office manager. In 2007, they had their second daughter, and for years, they homeschooled both children. In 2009, according to court records, their house went into foreclosure. They got those payments caught up a couple of years later. But several people close to the family tell me that more recently, just before Teresa was murdered, their house was about to go into foreclosure again. Also, neighbors tell us that since Teresa worked long hours, it was Mark who was mostly seen around here. He would be outside walking the dogs or playing with the kids. That is, until about 3 weeks before the murder. And then it was Teresa walking the dogs and playing with the kids, and Mark was nowhere to be seen. Neighbors, almost all of them around here, tell stories of coming home and finding Mark inside their screened-in front porch or their pool cage, letting himself in and just standing there. And the neighbors also tell another story about how Mark would get a ladder, lean it up against the house, climb up there, get his 8-year-old and 11-year-old daughters to come up there with him, and they all 3 would sit on the roof and play cards. We're far from being done with this stunning new evidence and information just released today. Late into the night, our investigators are still digging into the documents, and we'll have more team coverage tomorrow morning starting at 4:30. And as always, you can head to our website, winknews.com, for more detailed information about the new documents released today. We'll be right back.
Hey, there's your wake-up weather forecast. Get up tomorrow morning to 69 degrees around sunrise, and then get ready for one more extra warm day. 85 degrees tomorrow. Not as warm Thursday and Friday. Remember, cloudy, wet weather Thursday and at times on Friday.
All right. Thank you, Jim. We'll be ready for it. Thanks for joining us tonight. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is next.
Wake up with Wink News this morning starting at 4:30 a.m. Sleep well, everybody. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.